Welcome to the Content Magazine podcast, conversations with Silicon Valley's creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates.
Hey, this is Isaiah.
Today we talk with Isaiah Wilson. He is one of the co-founders of The Come Up, which is a collective that showcases the work of musicians and artists. Hey Isaiah, how you doing?
I'm good. Just enjoying this nice Thursday afternoon. I think it's Thursday. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm the same way. I'm kind of like, oh, today's Tuesday? Wait a minute. It's Tuesday every day.
I guess this really shows which is your favorite day of the week, because whatever day you think it always is probably the day that you enjoy the most.
Yeah.
I've actually always been a fan of Thursdays, especially going into college, because it's like, it's weekend eve.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And you feel like you can get all the stuff. I like kind of getting all the stuff done I didn't do the rest of the week at the end of Thursday. It's kind of like getting down the wire. So
yeah,
this is my day to just do everything.
I was kind of doing the thing with my little team. I was saying, okay, it's Friday. And they're like, ooh, I say the new Monday. And they didn't appreciate that.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I know. But sometimes it kind of feels like that. Well, you would know. I mean, you guys do a lot of events and production and gatherings. And so the weekend could be it's probably one of your busiest parts of the week, right?
Absolutely. We do have occasionally have a show, like we'll do Wednesdays at Cafe Stritch for Wax Wednesday and maybe a show on a Thursday here and there. Yeah. But yeah, something I kind of realized because of everything happening with the quarantine is just how much time myself and the rest of our team and different artists just spend working or going to school during the day and then kind of getting stuff done in the evening to prepare to do stuff on the weekend. Yeah. And so I feel like I have a proper weekend even though I'm inside all day because I'm not going out to put together a show or go support someone else's event happening that same weekend. So it's been an interesting adjustment.
Yeah, that's what's nice. How was that adjustment? I mean, being someone, when you're out and doing a lot of stuff, what's it like then having that kind of come to a crashing halt?
I would like to preface that I'm very blessed and very grateful that I still am able to work right now, and I'm not like a lot of people that I know and people in the community right now who are struggling to find work, or they maybe still have a job but they are aware that they work for a small business and they might be struggling and they're very unsure of things. And all that to say that leading up before the quarantine, I was really hoping to get some type of break because I was getting a little bit of kind of burnout, because I knew that I would have a really busy summer with shows and events, and then spring was picking up with a lot of ideas and shows that we had. Within about another month or so, we were planning to have an event called San Hochella, which is now postponed. So it's kind of disappointing because I know so many other people who were looking forward to having their big shows. Like for the Come Up, we'll have 3 or 4 shows within the course of a month sometimes. Yeah. So it's not so for us to take a 2-3 month break, it doesn't feel like we're really destroying a lot of momentum. Right. But for a lot of people, it's definitely the case where it might be their first big event or big show. But I can speak for myself and our team is that it's kind of given us a good time to kind of rest, to really focus on ourselves and really kind of ask questions about the work that we do and kind of be more mindful of when we're in a space where so many people are struggling financially. There are folks who are at home all day and they might not be in the best kind of household for various reasons. You ask yourself, when you're putting on these shows, the goal is to get people out of the house and to have kind of a good escape from work and stuff. But, what is the role of curators and producers of shows when there aren't any places to produce or do shows? Yeah, that's interesting. Give a little self perspective, but at the same time, though, you start to, I guess, in some ways, it gives validity to what you're doing. You realize, hey, these are not just entertainment aspects; these are community building, and these are actually sanctuary or refuge for some people too, right? Yeah, absolutely. But I think part of it too is because it plays that role. You ask yourself, well, how do you now that we have this space to not have those shows, most people don't have that access to escape, whether it be a show that we're putting on or an art show or anything else. How can we still provide comfort for people? Like, what role can we be to really help the community beyond just having a place to,
Yeah.
you know, a place to go out for a couple hours at night?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's great. I mean, that means, which I think that demonstrates in what you guys are doing and the care that you guys are doing, because even though it's kind of shifting as different times, like, you really care about the people that are attending. It's not just like, hey, let's put on a show. You're not trying to be Bill Graham, like, let's put on a big production. It's like, hey, what are we doing to build community, right? And so even when
It'd be
that's
nice to be a Bill Graham.
right, yeah, right. Yeah, maybe. Well, hopefully you could have both, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, is build community and also pay all the bills. That would be nice. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was the thing I was going to ask you. Is I feel that I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and
Thanks.
I think it's great. And at the same time, as seeing the amount of information that you guys are putting out, like on your social media story and all that kind of stuff, like, I feel overwhelmed. One, I'm like, this is great. I'm super excited. And then the other time I was like, oh, this is way more work than people probably realize. So how are you guys able to crank out so much in a way? Not to make it sound so, I don't know, crank out, but you know what I mean?
No, I get you. I was talking to a friend about this and a coworker, that especially when you're posting stuff on social media, there's kind of this, it's kind of a weird mindset you have to be, like, the mindset you're on when you're on your own personal pages, posting stuff, talking about stuff, really kind of spreading the word. There's kind of this informality that exists. And when you're aware that you're on this page, which it's not just, me, there's John and Lana and even Riley sometimes from New York, you have folks who are using this page and represent so many other people. And so I think the best way that we kind of like put out and crank out this work is just by really making sure that we're kind of getting the best resources and really fact checking what we're kind of putting out.
Yeah.
Because earlier when the quarantine first happened, we designed and sketched out this kind of like what to do during a quarantine. Like, we'll thrive through this, and kind of giving a more positive spin on the quarantining at home and what are some of the things you can do. Because there is a lot of stuff out there. That's been kind of one of the challenges on social media, is really kind of getting rid and trying to avoid a lot of the conspiracy theories or, people who are a little too overly enthusiastic about what's going on, and they're like, this is your chance to like start a business, and if you don't do that, you're a failure. Like, there's so much of that out there. And I think there's kind of this concerted effort by a lot of folks who are just trying to like put out stuff of like, hey, like, here's some ways to relax. It's okay to be scared. It's okay if you just kind of sit around and read and hang out the house all day.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really just providing something that I would want in this kind of situation, and something that I needed. Like, the things that we wrote down and we put out and the things that we shared were things that helped us, whether it's like kind of like volunteer opportunities, mutual aids, and other things that the community are doing, and also just different cool live streams that are happening in virtual art shows. San Jose Day was yesterday of this recording. So Haley put on a virtual art show featuring Corey Alexander and Taylor Dubois and Jada and so many other people. So sharing stuff like that, I think, is just a cool way for people to feel like there's still a community here. And all the social media stuff that we do, pre-quarantine was worth it, because now we have kind of cultivated a little bit of community online, and people are spending a lot of time on their phones. So having more positive stuff goes a long way.
Yeah. It's actually, it's kind of encouraging to see how people have kind of like still want to keep going and supporting art and gatherings in the community and stuff. It's great to to see that. But I get what you're saying too. I mean, I know right when it all started happening, a couple of things came up like in my LinkedIn, of like people like the opportunity, this is the time, and I understand to a degree. At the other part is like, no, like, I was actually kind of like it took me about a week. I was like working on the magazine, so it didn't change. And then I came back into it, and I was kind of like, But I was more of like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna shut down. Like I'm not gonna do anything for
Hmm.
until it's done. Like why do we have to rush so much? And
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, which I agree. But then at the same time, I was like, well, what's a way to help support the community? Like you're doing. So yeah. Now, did you grow up in San Jose? I mean, we're
No, I'm from Southern California. To be more specific, I grew up in the Inland Empire, which is the kind of Midwest, the true Midwest of California, I would say. There's a lot of different cities and areas of California which claims to be the true Midwest, but I would say the Inland Empire, which is made up of like Fontana, the San Bernardino County area, that's like kind of the true Midwest. And I moved to San Jose about almost 5 years ago.
yeah, okay. Because even your phone
Yeah.
number was like this 909. What I was like, what the heck?
Yep, that's 909.
The
The
90.
nine. The nine.
Oh yeah, is that what they say down there?
No, they don't.
Oh, okay. Maybe they will now. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like the zip code thing is way more prominent in the Bay Area, like the 408 and the 415. Like it's a real thing out
yeah,
here.
yeah. I guess out there because things are kind of so close together and meshed, it doesn't make that much difference. I guess I don't know. That would be
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah. So then you moved up here, and it was for school, right? For San Jose State.
yeah. I went to San Jose State. I transferred, so I moved up here when I was about 20, 21, 20 years old,
Yeah.
and uh, the come up started when I had just gotten out of college. I was just graduating actually, and Riley McShane, our co-founder, was also getting out of college, and we didn't really know each other until the summer after we both were pretty much done with school, and he had went to Santa Clara, and uh, that's how that all got started. So we definitely have like this love for San Jose. John's from the area,
Yeah.
and Lana, who's a newest member of our team, she's from the Pasadena area, and she's new to San Jose as well. So it's interesting. You have like 3/4 of the people aren't from San Jose specifically, but have
Yeah.
this like sense of like love and kinship for the place.
Yeah. I think in some ways I think that's kind of helps kind of even spark some things. Sometimes I think when you grew up here and you live here, you're not necessarily thinking in ways of like, oh, how can it be different? You're just like, whatever. It's just that. When you come from the outside, you're
Yeah,
like, wait a minute, look at all these things that are going on. Wait, look at this. This is incredible potential. This is great stuff going on. How come nobody's doing it? What's going on? Right. And I think that kind of brings those new eyes. Right.
right. And I think part of it I can't speak for all of us, but I know for myself, being in an area, growing up in an area that's like really kind of just like quiet and a little boring. Like I was actually born in LA and spent a lot of time in LA when I was a kid, so I got exposed to a lot of cool arts and culture stuff.
Yeah.
But really, my day to day as like growing up was really kind of being in this very quiet kind of almost farm kind of area. So coming to San Jose in my 20s and also being able to go to bars and stuff, you kind of fall in love with whatever city you're in when you're
Yeah.
in your 20s. I think like it doesn't matter where you're at, but wherever you end up being able to legally drink, you're always going to have that city's always going to have a special place in your heart.
Yeah.
And I think that was the case for myself and Riley when we decided to kind of like create the narrative and the vibe of what the come up is today.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So do you just for you on like a personal level, what do you have like what is your kind of like your driving philosophy or motivation mission that kind of makes you tick?
Just in general, or just for the quarantine itself?
Just in general, for you, just you, for at the core of Isaiah.
I always talk about like I'm always into the idea of world building. That's something I've always been a fan of. Like even when I was a little kid, just I would always write stories and kind of create stories in my head, and always just find different ways to be creative. And so what kind of makes me tick is like how can I tell a story, or how can I like kind of make a setting. And so I guess that's what I'd say would make me tick. And so um, right now, my big focus, like in the middle of all of this, is just finding new ways to be creative, finding new ways to kind of just like do different and fun things, or things I find fun at least.
Yeah.
And really kind of explore what those things are and how can I tell a story with them.
Yeah, yeah.
If that makes sense.
And what would be the goal of creating those worlds, creating the stories?
I'm not sure. Like, I feel like the story, like you just, it's like with writing, there is two ways to write. There's the way where you kind of have like a grand theme and idea, and you create a story knowing how it's going to end and what your main takeaway is. But I think whether it's like making music or drawing or like writing stories or doing short stories or anything else, I think overall I just kind of take it as I go, and
Yeah.
then in the middle of writing the story, I kind of go, oh, that's it. That's what the story message is. Like with the come up, it was all kind of like one show at a time, and then it kind of built into something more. And I think the best way to tell a good story, whether it's like a literal story or kind of a grand narrative of like an experience, is just kind of taking it as it goes,
Yeah.
and going from there.
Yeah. Would you say that you've had kind of then a transition then from kind of like, hey, let's put things together that we would like to go to now, like you were even saying, like, wait a minute, what's the role of a promoter? And you're thinking in terms of like the well-being of the audience. Do you think that's kind of developed, or what are you
Yeah,
saying?
absolutely. And I think that was something that I would be lying if I were to say that that's something that I we came across over time putting on shows. I think we're really heavily influenced by other groups and organizations that put on shows in San Jose, and being inspired by them and really kind of taking a step back and saying, what's this all about? Like, it is fun shows, but what really defines the come up isn't whatever we think, it's the community itself. So I think people like Jessica from Martha,
Yeah.
the guys who do Snotty,
Yeah.
all these other organizations and groups who put on shows and do things. Those are the things that really had us take a step back and go, what's kind of the overall goal of what we're doing?
Yeah.
And one of the ones that I'm not sure if we've talked about in the past, but the come up right now has been really big on making a case for a mid-sized level venue in San Jose, like really having spaces where people of all ages can gather and meet. And I know the idea of gathering meeting is not the most popular idea right now,
Right.
but it is definitely something that we've kind of been building with our shows as of late, kind of doing less shows, like smaller shows, and doing more big scale shows, which really kind of focus on like, this could be done on a regular basis if we have the infrastructure and the funding to make it possible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. So then I guess even
Yeah.
for you in your kind of journey with you guys kind of putting these together, even to think in terms of that, of like, oh well, if we, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but strategically kind of do a little bit bigger show, it'll demonstrate the business plan or the feasibility, even though your still goal is still to bring people together and create that community. But like
Mm-hmm.
thinking kind of strategic, is that kind of what you're saying and has kind of evolved?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and like I mentioned, there was a point where I was feeling a little bit of a burnout leading before the quarantine happened, and things just kind of all got postponed and canceled and shut down.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's sustainable to have a group of like, say, 1 to 5 people, especially in their 20s when you're at a different age, just put on shows for the fun of it for a really long time without really trying to figure out how to monetize it.
Yeah.
And so I think they're always, even if I may not be interested in like doing shows for the rest of my life and doing all of that, I think there should be kind of a case made that someone knows that, hey, there's a money making model here, because we're still still is a capitalist country.
Yeah.
Still money needs to be made. Rent is really high here, and there's
Yeah.
a high cost of living.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard for artists or creatives to really invest in their creative endeavors if there isn't an incentive or a way to make a sustainable living or even a part-time living off
Yeah.
of what they do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important for creatives to think about that. They may not have to be super money oriented with their work.
Yeah.
I know I'm not for my own personal creative art stuff, but I think it should be something that is like part of the conversation.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the thing, is if you're able to help promote and build these kind of regular events, that means the musicians and the artists are also going to benefit. So, I mean, do you, as you kind of like have this conversation, would the 20-year-old Isaiah be thinking, he's sold out, or what would you kind of think when you were younger?
I kind of went reverse, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In my 20s, I went to Cuba and changed my life about how I thought about economics in the world and things like that. I think I've probably gotten more I guess the term is radical when it comes to how the music scene, the art scene should function and work.
Yeah.
And
What do you mean by that? More radical?
I would say that if I was like 19 or 20 years old and I had to come up, my immediate thought would be like, oh, I could like sell this to like a tech. I could like go to a tech company and like find a way to really monetize this. And I would, because I went to school for business and marketing. So myself at 20, being a transfer student, really enthusiastic about the business world and enthusiastic about Silicon Valley, I would try to find a way to really monetize it. But I think me at 25, with more of a cynical thought about businesses and Silicon Valley and the tech industry as a whole, I'm trying to find alternative ways to make money that doesn't require, that's more about like infrastructure versus buying into the whole kind of like, oh, it's like a service. It's, really like, no, we need kind of artists need brick and mortar spaces. We need affordable spaces to live, things like that.
Yeah. So in some ways, more rather than a business opportunity, more of a holistic community plan, right?
Right. Yeah, I think maybe earlier when I was saying business incentive and things like that, I wasn't being clear. I think it's more so about, like more sustainability. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be raking a lot of money, but at least you have some type of system or local economy that you rely on and survive on. And I think that's going to be, I'm hoping that'll be stronger locally at the very least of like kind of the art community. This weekend, I'll be a friend of mine who's from here. Her name is Bella, and she's a DJ, Baby Bell.
Oh, yeah.
They reached out to me they reached out because we had this discussion or this idea of trying to get together some Bay Area creative DJs and promoters to kind of discuss inclusivity and sustainability and just kind of different ideas about what can Bay Area based creatives do to connect and know each other more. And I think that's part of that discussion. That's something that I think will be important in the next coming months, is really knowing who else is out there doing stuff that you're doing. What resources do they have, and how do you share those resources and those tools and those things to really kind of build the art scene? Because it feels like in the middle of all of this going down, a lot of people retreat to the arts. Like, you watch shows on Netflix, you listen to music to calm down, you watch yoga videos, you do all of these things that are associated with artists that normally aren't seen as being quote unquote important. Right. But in the midst of a crisis, like that's escapism is really important. And so I think this has empowered a lot of artists to know their value. And now that we're at this point where people know their value, not just like monetary value, but also just like, the importance of art's importance to mental health, and how do we connect those resources to build a stronger kind of like collective economy around artists and creatives.
So what's some of the things that you kind of are looking forward to, like next few weeks, and then even kind of like post shelter in?
Well, I'm planning some basil. I've had some basil this weekend, so I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to all the gardening stuff I've been doing. To be honest, I'm looking forward to talking to friends and getting back to like some of the. I know that I'm not sure what the world of events is going to be like in the next few months. I'm not entirely sure we'll be able to go back to 2,000 plus events within the next month or so.
Right.
So I'm really interested, while we're having discussions about the number of people we can have at an event, really trying to also shoehorn in how do we make these events more inclusive? How do we do things to make our community stronger? And how do we take all of this like energy that we all have right now and use it to help out a lot of people? Because people are going to be out of work, and people are going to be really kind of lost. And so my focus isn't really immediately about the events, even though I am excited to go back to that soon.
Yeah.
It's more about how do we use this creative energy to really help people in a very immediate way, and how do we kind of make it more sustainable, and as far as I can do personally, as far as we can do collectively as a community.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it is the opportunity, and presents a challenge for us to kind of all step back and say, like, wait a second, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? How do you see yourself kind of like in the future and evolving? Because now, you're moving forward, as this kind of weird kind of thing happens too. Like, you're not going to be as in tune to the 18-year-old as you get closer to 30 and that kind of stuff. So what is it, the kind of things that you're thinking of, like, hey, this is kind of where I'm moving in this direction? Just you personally, not so much. Well, I mean, of course, it probably includes the come up as well, but I kind of more like about you.
Yeah, definitely. I see myself kind of, like I mentioned earlier about the whole infrastructure thing. I do see myself really getting more. I'm more interested in like the content versus the events and stuff. Like, one thing I've learned from this whole quarantine thing is I actually do enjoy being indoors for good chunks of the day, and it's been very nice and relaxing, which is signs that I'm getting older. So I'm really more fascinated in creating more content and kind of creating the groundwork for how a young professional conducts himself as an artist. And I think that's what I'm focused on. So I do want to connect with the young people in that way, but not directly where I'm like, here's how you do these things, or let's put on an event together, but really having kind of an example of how to transition from kind of this more DIY artist to something more professional. Yeah. But not professional in the sense where you may not be working for a big company, not work for a big company, maybe work for a big company as an artist, but really making something sustainable for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the ways I see myself. I see a lot of scenarios, and I've always kind of had like a 5+ year plan since I was like 10. Since I was like 10, since I was a little kid, I always kind of had like an idea of where I'd be both professionally and creatively. And hitting 25, I realized I didn't have kind of a map of 30. Which feels like those are the more important years. Like, I feel like getting to 30, 35 is where you should have the 5-year plan, not when you're 15 years old, where you can't even draw. Like, what was my 5-year plan when I couldn't drive or drink or do any or own things, really?
Yeah, 5-year plan: get out of this house and drive. Right.
Yeah, pretty much it. So I've been kind of taking it more slowly and just kind of experimenting with what I like.
Yeah, because you have more multifaceted artistic expressions than kind of putting on events. Because you do illustrations and drawing, and do you do music as well?
I do. One of the things I've been doing is I'm making a beat tape right now.
Oh, cool!
Which has been really fun. Me and my friend Austin, who goes by the name, he's part of the band Swells.
Okay.
And he's the founder of Bay Beat Summit, and we did a show together called Donut Day back in February, which was a lot of fun. We're working on a collaborative, like, joint beat tape, which has been really exciting. I plan on putting out more music and kind of focusing on that. As far as illustrations go, just drawing for fun has been nice, but I've been sitting on this idea, kind of a short story of what my life has been in the past 2 years with the come up and just the art scene in San Jose.
Oh, cool.
And really kind of doing kind of like a short kind of like write up and maybe accompanying like a visual in like a comic book style. And so those are two of the things I've been excited about doing as some of the work of the come up slowing down with this going on, and then on top of just like doing bigger shows means that there's actually more time to do things like that.
Yeah.
Ironically enough.
Yeah.
And so that tape should be coming out within a month or so. I'm not sure if I should even be announcing it or not. We haven't talked about that rollout, but I think it should be. I think it should be fine.
The band's going to break up like tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna.
In the kind of shelter in time, if somebody was looking to connect, what would be one that you would recommend during this time?
I would like to give a shout out to the Santa Clara County Financial Solidarity, which is being done by Archive 408.
Yeah.
They have been requesting financial assistance, and kind of instead of, because usually these a mutual aid group or funding will be kind of like a pool of money that goes to multiple people at once, and they're kind of doing mutual aid where people request how much they need and for what reasons, and people can, using Venmo and other sources, finance their projects. And so I want to give a shout out to that as far as like ways that you can help. Second Harvest Food Bank is another place you can donate to, which helps feed people in Silicon Valley, and it's like providing healthy meals. So I just want to shout out some opportunities if you're just trying to find a way to help and you don't know how. That mutual aid and the Second Harvest Food Bank are some good resources and places to start.
Yeah, awesome.
I also have this group called Quarantine Garden for Dummies, which is just an Instagram group chat of people where they post photos of plants they're working on and offering advice. You can follow me at Civic Flora on Instagram, which is also the name of my artist name. And so, ironically, Civic Flora is providing an urban quarantine garden for dummies for people to share their some plant advice. It's been a really fun way. That's probably been the most therapeutic thing for me, is like kind of planting stuff and having my hands in the dirt. It reminds me of being a kid. Just like playing in the dirt. So that's been really nice and calming.
Yeah, it's cool.
And check out San Jose Day's like virtual art show on their page. It's been really cool to see a lot of cool local artists. Haley's done a great job of kind of showing and showcasing a lot of cool work.
Yeah.
And keep following SJ Come Up to check out other artists who'll be showcasing and posting different videos and stuff in the future.
Yeah.
Can I shout out one more thing?
Yeah,
Sorry.
totally. Yeah.
So I work for SJ Made, and they have this great website called SJ Made Town. So if you go to sanjosemade.com/SJ Made Town, you can go on the sanjosemade.com website, and it will show the SJ Made Town, and it's basically kind of 8-bit styled website full of different vendors and artists and businesses that are based in San Jose that you can support. And it's basically an online kind of town where you can click on the different like virtual brick and mortar shops and support groups like Academic Coffee, Panty Cat are on there, and a lot of other really great groups are on there, and it'll be building from now until after the quarantine if you want to find a way to support some local businesses.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's really cool. It's kind of fun to see how people have really kind of come together in a short time to help each other out and keep things going. So, yeah. So awesome. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for taking time to talk. And also, too, thank you for curating those different musicians in the issues, too, which is, I really appreciate it. Like Mild Monk and Nomadic. Oh, my gosh. Good stuff, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Look forward to hearing you. Stay safe. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too. We'll see you after the shelter.
See you after the shelter.
Okay, take it easy, man.
All right, bye.
In addition to publishing Content Magazine, SV Creates provides resources and training for the arts community. Each week we'll be checking in with Alyssa to see what's going on with SV Creates.
Hi everyone, this is Alyssa. I'm the program manager with SV Creates. On April 22nd, we're looking forward to offering a short webinar on crisis communications with Matt Lerman from Social Prosperity Partners. We're collaborating with Californians for the Arts and Theater Bay Area to bring you this free webinar. Check out our website and social media for links to register.
Cool. Thanks, Alyssa. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Please follow us on social media at Content Mag and subscribe by going to our website, content-magazine.com. This episode's music is Muddy Water from Sakura's 2020 release, Coming Home Soon. You can find Sakura on Spotify.